Hey everybody, and welcome to The Breakthrough Effect. I'm your host, Jared Sebesta. I've had two successful careers. First, I was an award-winning TV meteorologist and then a financial marketing strategist. I was living the dream, making good money, but inside I was craving for something more, something bigger. So I stopped deferring life and I started creating exactly the life I was searching for. I doubled down on unlearning old mindsets and creating big breakthroughs for me and my family. And now I'm bringing that same transformation to you. Let's understand the rules of this game. Let's get clarity. Let's stop chasing and start becoming. This is the Breakthrough Effect.
Well, if you're not looking for opportunity, if you can't allow business opportunities or financial opportunities because of the mindset and what you're unconsciously programmed to see through maybe your parents, like mine was a poverty mentality, or people that think, rich people are broke. It's not all about money. Don't be so focused on money, and all these really well-intentioned philosophies that sort of decide how we manage our attention and what we let in, and what we let in becomes the sources by which we construct our reality. So if I'm not allowing opportunity in, so that I'm only allowing the lack of opportunity to construct my reality, then I'm like, I just need to make more money. Well, no, maybe we begin with how we view the world. And then how we view the world, though, is an instant reflection of the narratives that we have inside of us. And that sounds so cliche, but it is scientifically how it works.
All right, today I am thrilled to introduce a man who literally rewires brains for a living. René Rodriguez has spent over 27 years cracking the code of human influence by applying cutting-edge neuroscience to solve leadership's toughest challenges. As a Wall Street Journal best-selling author and creator of the revolutionary AMPLIFII method, René doesn't just teach communication, he transforms leaders to connect with their deepest values and create lasting impact. When he's not sharing stages with icons like Tony Robbins or advising Fortune 500 companies, this serial entrepreneur is helping people with their own backstories to reframe not just their value propositions, but a beautiful picture of life itself. Get ready for a breakthrough conversation that will literally change your brain chemistry and amplify your influence in ways you never thought possible. Please welcome René Rodriguez. René, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, my friend. What an intro. That was great. Thank you. Rewiring brains. Let's do it.
I can't wait for this interview because I love where neuroscience, psychology, all of these things are mindset cross with life and business. So I'm super pumped for this conversation. First of all, I just have to commend you. I'm a fellow Minnesotan. You're the only guy I know that has moved from Florida to Minnesota and stayed. What's up with that?
Oh, man. Don't even get me started. I need my palm trees back. Yeah, but I give Minnesota a hard time. It's such a great place, good people, great values, and I just have a hard time with the weather, and I'll just forever complain about it until I move.
Amen. But I was a TV weatherman, and I made a shtick off of making fun of how horrible the weather here is in Minnesota, and I think we're not alone in that.
For sure. Well, you have to. It's the only way we find humor on it.
Yeah. It's enduring for 7 months, and then you live for the other 5 or less. It seems like that's how it works around here. Let's get right into it. You talk about human influence. Like, what is a piece of the puzzle when it comes to human influence and neuroscience that you kind of inherently knew was true, but as you research this and become more of an expert on it, is actually validating more and more the more that you research it?
I think there's a lot of things. People misunderstand influence. They think that it's just this offensive strategy to manipulate or to create a desired outcome, which, by the way, it is to influence a desired outcome. But then the question has to be, what does desired mean? Is it ethical? Is it moral? Does it both parties win? Are you being upfront about it? That's where you get away from manipulation. And so, but I think that there's a sequence to how it works, and I think what I like people to understand is, in my approach, why I think it's different is that I don't teach the skills of influence first. We do exploration of oneself first, and realizing how is it and who is it, who are you? Because the how you live your life, how you speak, your ability to speak authentically and congruently begins internally. And then what are you trying to influence? Usually that comes from understanding your life story, your origin story, where you're from. And when you have people make that connection to who they are, where they came from, and how they got to where they are, why they love serving the customers they serve currently. And then there's a story and a value set that was created in a very important time period when they were a kid, usually 9 to 13. That connection becomes very powerful. or somebody that might have felt like they didn't know where they were going, realized, okay, there was a method to my world. And so there's that piece. But I think the other piece too is that, listening is one of the most influential things that you can do. Just listening. Because not only are you giving people a safe space to understand and reveal how they feel, but you're creating a sense of connection with people. And then what happens beyond that is people are much more receptive to your ideas. And so I think listening is one of those secret weapons that is so cliched that we sometimes don't even hear it. And I think there's a consoling illusion that we're better listeners than we really are.
Yeah, that's a great point. You alluded to the fact of childhood, backstory. I've heard some information and science that goes back to those formative years of 9 to 13. What makes that period of life so special?
Well, the brain has critical periods, meaning that you have to learn certain things during this critical period. Like the most easily understood one is language. Like why as an adult is it so hard for us to learn a foreign language? Well, because the neurons that carry those vowel sounds haven't been used. And so what happens in the brain, there's a process called neural Darwinism, quite literally, where if you don't use certain neurons, they're pruned for efficiency. And so we have a lot less neurons now than we did when we were born. And so a lot of these neurons are just constantly firing when a child is born to see what clicks. And there's vowel sounds from different language sets. If those aren't used, they're just pruned. And so now there's a certain time period where the brain starts to evolve, and specifically in the limbic system, where between the ages of 9 to 13, that we start seeing the sequences of life, the narratives of life, the beginning, middle, and end. If this, then that process, which is a narrative that is driven by something. And it's driven by a set of values that are they're informed by the people that you're around in that time period. They're informed by the good experiences, what I call lighthouses, and they're informed by the bad experiences, the warning signs of the foghorns. Meaning some people are the guiding light of being generous. And so therefore they live a life of generosity. Some people are generous because they had people around them that just weren't, and they felt the darkness of that. And somehow they decided to be the opposite of that. And so the beauty of life can inform us in both areas. And so that formative 9 to 13 period is when our values are formulated. They're locked in at age 21, which is really fascinating. And they start realizing that values between 9 to 13 can be very singular focused. It's about, I do the right thing for Johnny because his parents aren't home and we invite him into our home. Okay, there's a value set. When Johnny's alone, we invite him into our home. Well, by age 21, it's not just when Johnny's alone. It's when anyone's alone. I invite him into my home. And so it's this pervasive progression, but that time period is critical for that.
I find that really interesting. And sometimes the people that are, they come to me, they're looking for something to spark their soul. They're searching for something. They feel stuck. Many people, what I've seen, and I don't want to say this surprises me, but they get to be our age. I don't want to put cap you into my age bracket, but they get to be middle-aged and they have a hard time finding the thing that really sparks them. And sometimes I hear people say, like, I just don't have anything. I don't even know what that is. Would you recommend people to go back to that specific age and just really kind of, I don't want to say psychoanalyze, but understand who is there and why they operate the way they operate?
Yeah, it's a tough question. I mean, it's a deep one because there's so many ways to approach, and I don't by any means want to sound like this is some silver bullet to address the question of how do we refine the spark in our life. But I think what happens is a lot of people think they have to change careers to be able to find the spark. And it comes down to this understanding of internal versus external locus of control. Like, where does the location of my control of my life happen? Is it internally motivated, or do I need someone else to come by and sort of turn me on? And obviously, the more inner locus of control that you can have, the inner self-motivated, self-starting behaviors, is a much more conducive to the quote unquote success in life, right? But when you can find that internal peace, you say, okay, I might be at a job that I don't like at the moment, but is it the job or is it the way I'm approaching the job? Because the job, there's the whole why you do something, how you do it, and what it is you're trying to achieve. The how is ignored too often. We will focus on why and what, and the how is the legacy that we live. The how is how we live every day. It's the only time that you're alive is in how. You're not alive in why. That's a past reason. But the what is future. The how is present. So and this goes back to the whole piece, is the end does not justify the means. You can't kill your way into power, and when you get there, expect to be peaceful when you've only practiced killing. I think somewhere it said the road to heaven needs to be heaven. And so the process needs to reflect the end. And so then we go, okay, if I don't like my process, my how, well, maybe it's not the what I'm trying to achieve, but maybe I can change the way in which I do it. And that exploration of what I value, what's important to me, and what is prioritized right now. Because our values won't change, but they do reprioritize over time. A lot of times through external circumstances, but what if we could be proactive about that and prioritize them based on a proactive approach, based on the vision that we want to create? So that might be the case.
Yeah,
So,
I connect with that, because that, in a nutshell, that's kind of what I have done unintentionally, and certainly not that articulately over the last couple of years. But it's kind of reconnecting with that, understanding perhaps why I think the way I think, but really connecting with that, with the internal why. And I just posted something recently. Somebody made a comment. They're like, I just wish I was as motivated as you. And I was like, it's not really a motivational problem. Perhaps it's more of a connection problem, because once you get connected, man, now you're tapping into something powerful, infinite, that it's hard to put your finger on, but you can't deny that it's not there. Have you seen that?
yeah. And I just, the thing I'm telling you is, like, motivation is so misunderstood and overrated. There isn't a single person that is daily motivated every single day, but you do find people that are disciplined, and that if the discipline can override it, but then it comes down to, I mean, that sounds like a great cliche. Your discipline should be over that, but then what does that mean? Well, do my feelings determine my next action? I don't feel like doing that, so then I won't. Well, I can point to a portion of my life where I allowed my feelings to determine everything, and I was 308 pounds, 45% body fat, completely miserable, working all the time, avoiding the gym, eating what I wanted. So in those moments, I was happy. It was happy moments of food consumption and procrastination and delaying things that were hard, to live a life of misery, though. And it was, okay, so, but I'm not motivated. Somebody once told me, if you're going to wait to be motivated, you're going to be in trouble. Like, you got to make this decision without the motivation. But then you get into what motivation is, that's even, people what they're really talking about is a little bit of adrenaline rush to go do something, and or a dopamine rush in the face of a vision of an outcome. Because you said connected. I think you nailed it, which is dopamine is that motivator. People think it's the reward. No, it's the motivator.
Interesting.
And it's secreted in the anticipation of reward, not in the reward itself. So once we achieve the task that we were motivated to do, dopamine drops through the floor. But if we can envision the outcome connected, like you said, to it, dopamine's the cheerleader that says, let's go. And that excitement, just like when you see food you haven't consumed and you're excited, that's dopamine.
Yeah.
You set a vision for the beach home. Let's go after it and do it. Once you get the beach home, though, dopamine falls through the floor. You look at it for a moment, happiness is gone, and you go, well, let's get another one. Maybe we need a bigger one, because you think, because that felt good before. Well, now you're in the pursuit again, and dopamine goes back up. And, it's why pursuit of happiness is stupid, because it's fleeting and you can't control it. But if I suffer towards something, work hard towards something, I may have not been pursuing happy, but I am pursuing progress and utility. And then when I can use my utility, my strength, my influence, my words of wisdom, my money to help another person, there's something way better than happiness. It's fulfillment and joy. And so, but I had to be unhappy to be able to help you, if that makes sense.
100%. And I've heard you speak on this before, and I'm glad you went down this road, because I want you to explain this more for our listeners. Because I've been accused, anytime you're in the personal development world, which, we kind of both are to some extent in different capacities, but like, you'll get those people who are like, what are you striving for? When are you going to be content? When is enough is enough, and it's hard to articulate that in a way where everybody can understand it. But I think what you nailed it with it's not the pursuit of the thing, it's the pursuit of utility. What do you mean by that?
To be of use. I don't see. So there's a quote that says, when the floods of life come, you're either the one who built the ark or the one who needs a ride. And so I go, okay, what does that mean? Well, to have built an ark, you had to suffer, sacrifice, said no to things, put your own time and energy into something that doesn't exist yet, a potential. But the moment that it happens, who is ready to be of help? the person who built it. Now, the ark is proverbial, right? It's metaphorical. Maybe you suffered over the book, so you have knowledge and wisdom, and somebody asks you something, you can offer your ark of savior, maybe of knowledge and insight and philosophy. Maybe your ark is that you have money and they need a school, and man, you know what? I can write the check for that school. I can put clothes on your back. I can feed you today. That feels good. Maybe it's you don't have the money, you don't have the wisdom, but you have the kindest and most empathetic heart, and you can be there and just listen and hug somebody and just be there for them and make them feel that way without words. So the to be of utility comes in so many different ways. You can go down the path of, are you a man that can protect people around you? Somebody dangerous comes around. Do they see you and go, uh-oh, wrong room, and they leave because of your potential capacity for being dangerous? And so that's a good person. If I was just a weak rabbit and some dangerous person came around and I hid in a corner, I'm not a good person. So I have to have my physical capabilities in place to be able to protect those that are important to me. How about somebody comes in with the words that are violent and I have no words to be able to combat this person and they abuse everybody, versus the person, male or female, that stands up and says, hold on a second. And they have the clarity and the backbone and the conviction to stand toe-to-toe with somebody and create a sense of harmony that needed to happen. That's dangerous in words. So there's, to be of utility comes in so many different ways. And so to me, you go back to even Maslow's hierarchy of the self-actualization, which is really the pursuit of what am I capable of? That is, I think, the ultimate pursuit. Now, to their point, when is enough enough? I hate that too. But it's not that it's enough. It's how do I integrate and harmonize my life as I pursue my greatness? How do I be there for my kids and my spouse and, all the realms that are important while I do all of these things? Because I promise you this, you ignore your family in the pursuit of greatness, it won't be the full capacity because you missed that piece. Now, you can't fully balance it because you can't give equal time and energy to everything. There's a reprioritization process. And, as my friend Brian Manning says, you got to flow between them. I like harmony and integration. He likes the word flow. And I think this is all great.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's such a spectacular conversation. I'm so glad that this came up. Even in like the intro of this show, we talk about how it's the art of becoming. We're not chasing. I think so many people they're chasing shiny objects. And to your point, it's like the next job, the more money, the car, whatever is the next thing. And there's nothing wrong in those things, but it's the journey of becoming, of letting. And again, I kind of take it down a spiritual route, so I'll use words like soul, but like that connection, to me, that's it. Actually, somebody asked me, they're like, how do you do all this and balance, family and all of these things? And it was a fantastic question. But the way that I explained it is I said, as I become and unlock what's inside me, I get better at all of the above. You know what I mean? As I try to explore and help more people with this podcast and speaking and all the things that you and I are doing, in that process, I become something greater. And then as a byproduct, my connection with my family actually goes up. I don't have to choose. It goes back to the whole integration process you just talked about.
I think you nailed it there. It's like the best gift you can give somebody is self-regulation. You be emotionally regulated and to be at your capacity. Because if I don't follow my pursuits, my dreams, things like that, then I have nothing to give you. I have nothing to offer. And it's like, it's the age old, put your mask on first. If you're in a plane, you put your mask on first. Why? Because you can't help your child if you're passed out. Period. Well, we forget to put our own mask on. We don't work out. We don't eat right. We don't take the time to spend. And I'm guilty of this all the time, by the way. This isn't me preaching. This is me going, I need this just as much as anybody. But we have to be able to have a healthy level of selfishness, right? And this ability to say, what is it that I need? Because if I don't get this, I'm not going to be there for you. I can't. Whether I'll die early, right? Or there's no energy, or I'm angry and resentful. And why? Because I didn't make the decisions earlier on. And so it's the paradox is the more I help myself, the more I can help you, or the more value I add.
100%. And you used another word that I love and use a lot is capacity. As our capacity grows, our ability to step into our greatness also goes up. Let me ask you a question. How do you mentioned some disciplines, not really motivation, but like, structure, processes. Like, what are some other ways that people can tap into that to expand their capacity? Because once the capacity goes up, then all of a sudden now you're cranking. To me, that it comes down to a capacity conversation. If you can increase the capacity, your ability to shine brighter goes up. What are some other ways that you could increase one's capacity?
So let's get real specific, right? Let's choose a topic area, because I think these have to be approached topic by topic. If it's like, for example, if it's growing my capacity to love, I believe the weight room of love is grace. Loving somebody who doesn't deserve it. The unmerited favor. Undeserving love. Somebody's betrayed you. Can you love them? That's a hard one.
It is.
Right? But that's increase your capacity. Joe Rogan, I think, said something really cool. He goes, when you have kids, there's this love that happens, and it doesn't that I love more, it's just my capacity for love grew. Okay, that's really cool. So let's talk about capacity in what sense? Let's pick a realm and let's dive into that one together.
Yeah. Well, let's say like, let's go down the business route, making money. So like, how do I increase my capacity? Because again, I think you would agree, making money and prosperity is really it's really a mindset shift more than it is like a business plan. I think we could probably agree to that in some capacity, but like, how
for sure.
Yeah. So how do we? I would agree with you. Yeah, it is both. I'm down a road where I'm really like hammering into like the mindset, almost spiritual side of that. But like, in what ways can people increase their capacity for more growth in their business, or expand their mindset in such a way where they can see more of the business, the finances, and just the overall expansion in that area?
So I had this conversation with somebody, and it was really interesting. It's like, okay, so you're saying, how do I expand the capacity for my income and my financial growth? There are opportunities constantly coming at people. There are opportunities constantly coming at me. People saying, hey, all right, I'll pay for your time. And in that moment, I go, no, it's all good. Versus, thank you. Just that piece. Now, multiply that one by every time somebody tries to do something nice for you, but you don't want to burden them. And so there's this idea of being a good giver, but what about, are you a good receiver? Is this receivership idea? And when you start allowing things to come into your life, opportunities come. Now, that's where the preparation comes in. Do you have a good business model? Are you able to articulate your story? Do you have the inner capacity to not be so agreeable and to say no and being okay to negotiate? There's all sorts of things in that moment to expand that capacity through skill set and mindset. But then there's the piece of saying, okay, just the whole psychology of, if I were to ask you to close your eyes and say, okay, tell me what you see that's brown. And then you open your eyes, you count. I go, see how many you can get. You go brown, 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 brown. Close your eyes. How many did you see? I go, great. How much did you see that was white? You're like, oh, I don't know, because I was looking for the brown. We do this all the time. And then, okay, so then you open your eyes, see white is everywhere. But I didn't see it because I wasn't looking for it. Well, if you're not looking for opportunity, if you can't allow business opportunities or financial opportunities because of the mindset and what you're unconsciously programmed to see through maybe your parents, like mine was a poverty mentality, and or people that think rich people are broke. It's not all about money. Don't be so focused on money, and all these really well-intentioned philosophies that sort of decide how we manage our attention and what we let in, and what we let in becomes the sources by which we construct our reality. So if I'm not allowing opportunity in, so that I'm only allowing the lack of opportunity to construct my reality, then I'm like, oh, I just need to make more money. Well, no, maybe we begin with how we view the world. And then how we view the world, though, is a instant reflection of the narratives that we have inside of us. And that sounds so cliche, but it is scientifically how it works.
You just really just spelled out my testimony 3 years ago when I looked at the world. And I say this openly from stage. Like, it was dark, bleak, and against me. The world's still a little crazy here in 2025. But the way that I look at it is different. I see it filled with opportunities, and it's full living color, not black and white. And when you start seeing that, and it's not as hippy dippy as like, oh, I just look at it different. Now all of a sudden the money comes rolling in. No, you're now kind of tuning your spirit, your soul, and your eyes and your heart to see what is actually there. I got to ask you a question because I'm curious. When did you really see that transition from scarcity, lack, poverty mindset? And then when did that shift? And how did you understand that you even had that mentality? Because I think a lot of people have that mentality, but I don't want to just tell people like you need to think differently. How did you awaken to that new reality?
I wouldn't say it was an overnight thing at all. Recognizing that I was raised by a former nun, right? So this is a mother that was global peace and community was her goal, and nothing to do with money. And so recognizing that that's an influence there. But for me, it began with who I spend my time with, like, period. If I'm around, like somebody once said, if you hang around 4 broke people, guess who's going to be the 5th? If you're hanging around 4 out of shape people, who's going to be the 5th? If you hang around 4 angry people, guess who's going to be the 5th, right? And so I go, okay, who do I need to spend my time with? And so I spend my time with a lot of very, very wealthy people. And guess what? Those conversations are different. If I want to be in good health, guess what I did for 2 years? I kept people that were very healthy physically around me. I didn't listen to them about money. They didn't have any, but man, they had great habits in the kitchen and in the gym. And so, it's deciding how I spend my time, who I allow in, is because that'll change it whether you want to or not. You can't just say, I'm going to change my mindset. Well, that's a good start. Okay, well then change the inputs. Who are you around? You can say, I'm going to change my mindset, but you hang around people that are broken mind, broken heart, and you wonder why you feel the same. And so taking an inventory of who you spend your time with. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to say no or just be, I'm not spending my time with you because you don't X, Y, and Z. No. No one needs to know this decision. I still have people in my life that are the opposite of that, but they don't know that I've moved past. They don't know that I'm not going to allow them to influence that. But they also might influence me in relationships because they might be not good in money, but great in relationships. Who knows? Or they might be good at, having more fun and balance and levity, which that's good too. So I think for me, it was recognizing who's around me first. And then from that point saying, okay, what is it that I want? And then he's actually a very good friend of mine. I called him up and I said, I'm going to hire you as a coach. He's like, you don't need to, we can just call and talk. Because, I would help him from time to time. I'm like, no, I want something very specific from you and I'm going to pay you. And he's like, and this is I don't know if you know Dave Meltzer. Dave Meltzer is he was the CEO of Lee Steinberg Sports and Entertainment, which is the movie they made Jerry Maguire after. So he was negotiating the biggest contracts in the world. He's made and lost millions and made them again, hundreds of millions. And I said, I want you to help me rebuild my relationship with money. And he goes, I love it. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that's all it is. It's the only thing. And 20-minute conversations. I'd be off in 15. Paid a lot of money for that. Worth it though, because he's like, first thing he talked about was, let's begin with what's already available and what you're allowing and not allowing. And I'm like, it was just such a simple thing. And I just that intention, I'm going to look for the opportunities. I'm going to look for those moments that people are offering something. And then in that moment, I'm going to say yes, even though it's hard. Now, all of a sudden, I set an intention, which directs my attention. And then I start seeing and I implement discipline. Not easy, but that's the process. You might set the intention, see the opportunity, not have the discipline and go back to old habits. Mm-hmm. Can't help you there.
You illustrate a fantastic point because when you were given the opportunity, you not only saw it, but you also then acted on it. And I would venture to guess the opportunities that he helped you see and thus then take made you super uncomfortable too. I think that's another huge part of it as well. Because to me, my capacity goes up at an exponential rate when I am not only available for the opportunity, but also take the jump and do it. And if my emotions are kind of split like 50-50 excitement and holy crap, what are we doing? It seems like that's a really good ratio for me. And I need to constantly kind of be putting myself in that arena, so to speak.
100%.
Yeah. I love that. We can start to land this plane here just in a little bit, and I got a couple rapid fire questions, but I just have to ask you this since I got you on the line here. And you being an expert communicator, there's people that are listening to this that have businesses, want to start a business, want to be better in their W-2, whatever that looks like, just be better communicators. Like what's one thing that everybody can do a better job of? You kind of talked about connection, but is there something even another nugget we can give people that really kind of crank up their ability, not to influence or certainly be deceptive, but like influence and be more authentic and make that greater connection with people?
Yeah, I think that there's so many things that we can do. But one is the recognition of your own story of where you came from and realizing that that story is a very beautiful frame to operate from and to share with people. Because if people understand that the way we understand people is through the narratives that we have about them. And if you don't share your narrative or your frame, I'm going to have to create one about you. And if I say used car salesman, people say sleazy, slimy. Well, there's the narrative that's embedded into us around a profession. Well, light travels faster than sound. And so if I show up, I'm going to see you before I hear you. How do you show up? How do you walk? Where's your chin? Are you smiling? Are your eyebrows raised? Do you have your chest out? Are you slunched over? Are you dressed like a slob? Do you have a disorganized quality to you? Or do you have an organized quality to you? All of those things are sending messages to the people. And if you can start saying, okay, let me get the aesthetics. I don't want to talk about dressing in suits. I'm talking about making a congruent aesthetic, not not one that's meant for beauty. Forget that. Is it congruent? Meaning, does your aesthetic, if you want to be organized and you want to come across as trustworthy, do you look trustworthy? Are you able to take care of the little details for yourself? And, those things. And so then learning how to enter a room, learning how to shake a hand, learning how to just stand tall. Those things just immediately shift. And they also, if you can do that in the face of feeling the opposite, I feel small, but I'm going to stand tall. Mm-hmm. I feel insecure, but I'm going to stand secure. Your body will impact your mind. In the same way your mind impacts your body, you can influence the mind through the body. It is asynchronous. And so sometimes that's where the fake it till you make it idea comes into play. But as Amy Cuddy said her book Presence, it's fake it till you become it. Mm. And so you might feel insecure, but you're going to stand secure until you start being secure. Mm. And that's really, I think, what the simplest, not simple, it's a great first step to start.
Absolutely. I love that. I just had a chance to meet Dr. Caroline Leaf last week at an event in New York City, and she just talks about how the mind controls the brain and the body. And there's so much science and depth to this, but I think that you articulated that really, really well. Just really, really quick, like what's a daily practice you do to keep your influence sharp? What's something that you do every day that kind of keeps you like just dialed into this whole idea and platform that you stand for?
Well, I think I would answer this a little differently. It's been doing it long enough that it just is who I am now. But then I go focus on what takes me away from who I am. And it's so simple, I guess, but it's breathing. It's learning how to breathe during the difficulty, because the only thing that takes me away from who I am, and I'd say the venture to anybody listening here, is your stress level. And when stress level goes high, we enter a world of what we call attributes. What are the attributes that you function from when you're stressed? Some people get really focused. Some people lash out and blame. Some people freeze and clam up. Some people rise to the occasion. Who are you under those stress levels? And for me, the only bridge between that unconscious and conscious self, the stressed self, the excited, overly stressed versus the relaxed, strategic, would be breathing. That's why athletes do it. That's why Navy SEALs do it. And any speaker needs to learn. You start with 3 seconds in, 4 seconds out. The importance of that is longer exhale than inhale. If you have a shorter exhale, that's the formula for hyperventilation. So work 3 in, 4 out. Learn that from the Mayo Clinic. And then work towards 3 in, 7 to 8 out, slowly. If you want to get real advanced, Google box breathing. That's more advanced, a little bit more difficult, but very powerful. Lots of great breathing exercises.
Fantastic. I love that. Really, really quick. As you continue to learn, become an expert in this field, neuroscience, neuroplasticity, because that's essentially what we're talking about here in essence in a lot of ways. What's one thing that after all these years of doing this and teaching this that still like blows your mind that is still possible in the realm of humanity?
What still blows my mind is how predictable human behavior is and how we sometimes just don't listen to it. Human beings, I believe, are inherently really good. And when you realize and you believe that, you realize that it's the situation that oftentimes determines whether they act from those values or not. In the situation, if it's high stress, cortically puts limits to how much of their limbic system they have access to, which is their values center. And so if stress is high, you get good people doing bad things, you get honest people lying, you get generous people not sharing. That to me isn't a values disconnect. It is a stress level. And when you can reduce the stress, and usually that's through validation, listening, and showing that you care, that part of the brain can calm down because it's protecting all that. Power of psychological safety, the ability to speak up without fear of retribution. When you can create that, literally anything is possible with people.
I think it's a fabulous way to put a pin in this conversation. I appreciate that as deep, and I love this conversation. We talked about communication, influence, but like we got into the psychology and even that spiritual side of life. So I appreciate this conversation. Before I let you go, what are you most excited about, and or where can people find more about you and what you're doing?
Well, one, I truly enjoyed the conversation. This was fun, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. We're starting launching a 30-day influence mastery program, which has been 6 months in the making, 20 years in visioning, but it's combining, taking the idea of micro habits, micro lessons every day, instead of this intensive 2.5-day workshop that we do, which is still great. What if you could learn one small micro change a day? And I walked you through each one of those. And we've spent a lot of time, 35 hours in the studio. We're 3 months into editing and workbooks and community and daily text to really put together a foundation for a true transformation in 30 days. We launch in about a week. We have a wait list if people want to be a part of it so they can look at it. I'll send you that. They can put it in the show notes. Other than that, follow me on Instagram, Learn with René. And we do right now across all platforms, 40 videos per day. So you'll find me somewhere out there. So it's 1,200 videos a month that are going out right now. So search my name, it'll come up, follow me, share your ideas. Love it. It's all micro learning, no selling. So that's one of the things that was important to us.
Yeah, echo that. And also too, I'm signed up for your newsletter, which is just incredible as well. So I mean, if you can't find René, you're not doing it right. You're trying real hard.
It's annoying. Something like, I keep seeing you. I was like, sorry, but good.
Appreciate you, brother. This is fantastic. God bless
Likewise.
you, and commend you on all your success, and excited
Likewise.
to see more
And
from
to you as well. It's good to see good people doing this work, man, especially somebody with your background. I think lends perfectly to this. Your energy is fantastic. Everybody that knows you adores you, and the value you bring. I think it's a really, really important message. So kudos on everything you're doing, and keep pushing, man.
I receive that. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Awesome, man.
If this conversation sparked something in you, don't let it fade. Please rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform. Don't forget to connect with me online as well. Follow me at Jared Sebesta on Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube, or dive deeper at my website, jaredsebesta.com, where all my free trainings and resources are waiting for you. And remember, stop chasing the life you want and start becoming. This is the Breakthrough Effect. We'll see you next time.